What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. There are many different ways to do your debut album. You could tell your story, you could come up with some creative concept that wraps all the music together, or you could go the Rich Homie Quan route. After 6 long years, he finally put out his debut album, Rich as in Spirit, this past Friday. So the Rich Homie Quan format is simple. It's 19 songs that pretty much acts almost like a greatest hits project. I feel like Rich Homie's buzz has really diminished a lot. It's really fizzled out over the years. So he's no longer the hottest in the game, which allows him now to bear the titles of being underrated and underappreciated. Because make no mistake, just because he's not the most buzzing rapper in the industry anymore doesn't mean that the quality of the music has gotten any worse. I would argue that it's gotten better. I'm listening to this album and I am loving it. It's that good. And so instead of doing my traditional format, favorite songs, critical moment, etc., I wanted to sort of switch it up a little bit. I had 3 observations that I wanted to make about the album and discuss it. The first one being that even though it's a longer album, it really doesn't feel like it. I think Rich as in Spirit is a very fluid listen, and because of that, it doesn't feel like it's long. 19 songs, and it's still under an hour. It's to the point that I'm listening, and then it kind of just ends, and you're like, damn. That it was over already. I feel like I was just listening to Same Year 5 minutes ago. With this album, Rich Homie doesn't really try anything new, which is a good thing in his case because it allows him to further hone in on his signature sound. This is not him trying to create a new formula. This is him understanding his formula. Understanding what works, what the fans want from him, and simply providing that with 19 songs. I think it also helps that I haven't listened to Rich Homie Quan in a long time. It feels like, I would say like 3.5 years since the Rich Gang era. That was the last time that I really listened to Quan's music. And so now that I'm listening to it again, it sounds fresh. I think the big problem with a lot of artists is that they put out too much music. Not saying Rich Homie Quan does, but a lot of artists put out so much music, they have such a similar sound, and they continue to do the same things on each project. It's called oversaturation, and it doesn't work well. So the fact that I was able to sort of step back from Rich Homie Quan and get back into it now shows that it sounds a lot fresher than it did before. For my second observation, I just wrote 34. So I'm going to kind of ad-lib it a little bit. Obviously, this means that 34 is my favorite song on here. But I look at it also like Quan is a double threat in the fact that he's able to have these catchy hooks and these dope verses. It's something that is prominent throughout the entire album. In some ways, I feel like that might hold things back a little bit because outside of 34, I don't know that there's any songs to me that like stand out, that leap at me. I think every song on here is good and it works well in context of the album, but there's nothing that screams like, this is the single. This is the one that's going to be all over the clubs. I don't have anything like that. Not to say that there isn't any, but in me listening to all this music at one time and not hearing any singles prior, it just feels like it works too well as a body of work and maybe not for pulling pieces out of it. My last observation was that I would have loved to have seen more guest features. Rick Ross is really the only feature that you get on Rich as in Spirit. I remember back in 2015, it was rumored, or not even rumored, but at that time, it was implied that Ryan Leslie and Lil Wayne were going to be the executive producers for Rich Homie Quan's debut album. It never happened, and I don't know why. He hasn't done like an interview, as far as I know, where he talked about why that never happened. I mean, honestly, we kind of put the pieces together. It's such a weird combination. I feel like Ryan Leslie would have been a good choice. I don't know much about Lil Wayne because I don't think that Wayne has really executive produced outside of maybe his own projects. So it was weird to see like him tied to the project. But Ryan Leslie, I think, would be a good executive producer. But I also wonder if he would have pushed Rich Homie to leave his comfort zone, like how the album would have sounded with Ryan's influence. But nonetheless, some guest features would have helped to break up the flow a little bit. Not to say anything bad about Rich Homie Quan, but some of these songs would have been cool to have like a guest feature on them. I mean, it really doesn't have to be Rich Homie versus the world. I feel like he's still a notable enough name to work with whoever almost. So Rick Ross is a nice touch, but I would have liked to have seen more. Rich as in spirit is rich in content. If you have ever been a Rich Homie Quan fan in his entire career, I feel like you'll enjoy this album. He doesn't sway from what makes him good. He doesn't try to do any experiments. He simply comes at this music knowing what his fans want and expect out of him, and just ups the ante, gives us 19 songs of just that. In some ways you might be thinking, well, then there's no artistic growth. But I think in the case of an artist like Rich Homie Quan, he doesn't need it. We're not expecting Rich Homie Quan to be the next Kanye. We're not expecting him to be Kendrick. We're just expecting him to provide good music within what he can do as an artist. I think if Rich Homie Quan doesn't flood the market and spaces out these releases, he can keep this up for many years to come. I look at it now, like I'm seeing on social media that Rich as in Spirit is getting, praise and celebrated, which means it's spreading, which means more people are going to check it out. And then, the cycle just keeps continuing. I don't know how well the album's going to do in sales. I don't know how far this album is going to take him. But I think that he has a dedicated enough fan base to where all the right people that want to check out this music are going to listen to it. So those are my thoughts on Rich Homie Quan's debut album, Rich as in Spirit. After you listen to this album, I want to know what you think about it. Do you mirror the stuff that I said in this review, or are you disappointed in this album? I want to hear from you in the comment section below. And then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter at SirMizDomain. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching. And until next time, peace.